Severance Season 2, Episode 6 shows how Mark and Helly have been able to rekindle their relationship after the devastating realization that Helena had tricked both of them. She had violated them and had betrayed Mark and Helly by not telling Mark who she is and by using Helly's against Helly's will. As we last saw in episode 5, Mark was dealing with the after effects of finding out that Helena betrayed him. He had typical symptoms of somebody who experienced trauma. He basically pulled away from everyone because he no longer trusted where he was. He didn't trust the people he worked with. He didn't trust Lumen especially. He shut down emotionally. And again, that's a way of protecting himself. I believe he showed very little interest in Irving's funeral because he just could not allow himself to feel anything. Because if he did, I think rage would come out of him. So Mark's way of dealing with trauma in general is to shut down. And what better thing to do than to work on the computer, working on his Cold Harbor file. In fact, he had a very productive day. He probably worked harder on that file that day than any other day at Lumen. When Helly approached Mark to ask him why he's acting so strange around her, he basically was like, well, I don't know who you are. I thought you were Helly. I found out you were Helena. Now you tell me you're Helly. I don't know who you are. Of course, Helly gets very upset. She says, Mark, it's me. He says, okay. And she says, do you want to talk about it? He said, no. She said, do you want to know what I went through? He said, not really. And he walked away from her. Helly was dejected. She was absolutely grief-stricken. Not only did Mark now want nothing to do with her, basically rejects her, she was violated by Helena, her outie, who took over her body, pretended to be her, and fooled everybody. Fooled all her coworkers, her friends. Mark, of course, was the most vulnerable to what she did. Helly is absolutely devastated. She is not able to get through to Mark and is not able to reconcile with him during episode 5. The episode ends with Mark leaving a few minutes early because his reintegration process was starting, and Milchick followed him in the elevator to ask how things are going. And he got up very close in Mark's face, which in itself is very threatening when somebody comes up that close to you. Basically, they're disrespecting any personal space that you have. And he said, does Helly know that you had sex with her outie? And Mark was shocked that Milchick knew about it because he figured nobody knows. And then when Milchick said, the future CEO of the company, Mark was shocked. And I think he was really, really frightened at the same time because he didn't know who she was. He knew she was an Egan, but he didn't know that she was going to be the CEO. So I think that really upset Mark to the point where he had to have a second thought about what he was going to do with this information. This brings us to the latest episode, episode 6, where Mark decides he's going to tell Helly the truth. And he does. He says, look, I have to tell you something. We had sex in the tent that night. And Helly was shocked. And he said, look, I thought it was you. I didn't know. And she realized it's not Mark's fault that he was led to believe it was her, that he was deceived. But she herself felt so violated. And she said, look, I need to take a walk right now. I need to be alone. And she does. She walks down the hallway and she takes off her shoes, sits down, with her legs crossed in front of her and is very upset and crying. Now, I think her taking off the shoes is very telling of how she was feeling at that moment. She had said that Helena dresses her in the morning to go to work, and she said she dresses me like a baby. So she has no autonomy over her body, over the clothes that she wears, over any part of her life, period. She thought she had control at least of her life in the office. Now she sees she has no control at all because Helena could come in at any time and pretend she's Helly. So I think by taking off her shoes, it was a way to defy what Helena dressed her in. And also, she was feeling vulnerable and she was feeling scared. She was feeling unsure of herself, so she took her shoes off. And then later, when she has made a decision about what she's going to do, she put her shoes back on and she walked very confidently down the hallway to Mark. She sees Mark. She tells Mark, she said, I know it's not your fault. I know she fooled you, but she has completely taken over everything in my life. She fooled everybody. As Mark said, I'm so sorry. Would you like me to tell you what happened? She said, no. I want my own memories of our time together. Would you like that? And Mark said, yes, I would like that. So they found an empty office and they made a tent for themselves, replicating the tent that Mark was in with Helena at the night of the campfire. And Mark said to her, yes. And she said yes, making it very clear he's asking her permission if she wants this, and she says, yes, I do. So they were both at that point respecting each other, basically giving permission to each other. So there's no betrayal, there are no games. And in doing so, they empowered each other and they took back their power that Helena took away from them. She hurt them. She betrayed them. She basically played with their emotions. And now they took their power back and they made love under the desk. And it was very sweet and very special to both of them. So then you see the next scene. They're walking down the hallway. They look very happy. We know what we're doing. This is the way we want it. So I hope you enjoyed this recap of Mark and Helly's adventure, how they reclaimed themselves and their love. And I will be putting out another video shortly. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you all again soon.